and adoption of technology that technology can deliver to cooperatives and enable cooperatives achieve their potential. Finally, I would like to appreciate our partners, Cooperative Federation of Nigeria, a keynote speaker, panelists, and other participants of this session for making this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Obong, for that. And I think very useful words to set the tone for what should be a very informative and enlightening conversation today. He mentioned the untapped potential of cooperatives, and I believe that as we progress today, we will appreciate that a lot more. And I really like the point about farmers' cooperatives and access to markets. No doubt that is a huge area where cooperatives can make an impact in Nigeria today. We see how they are doing so in many other countries, especially in East Africa, and we look forward to seeing the same here in Nigeria. Before I invite our keynote speaker to deliver her keynote address, just wanted to encourage you that if you are joining us from wherever you are in the world, you can just leave a little message in the chat field and let us know where you're joining us from. I imagine that the majority of our audience today will be joining us from Nigeria, but we'll also like to know if you are joining us from outside the country. So please let us know how far and wide this conversation is going. So on that note, I would like to now welcome to deliver her keynote address. I did introduce her earlier. She's none other than the Honorable Commissioner for Wealth Creation, Cooperatives, and Employment in Edo State, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome as she delivers her keynote address. Now, I know we can't do it with a virtual applause, but let us also welcome her as we give her attention. And please welcome Honorable Commissioner Afishetu Braimo. Honorable Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Wally. How is everyone doing this morning? First of all, I'd like to find out who put this panel together. Why am I the only female on this panel? There's a lot of cooperatives across the globe that are represented by women, great women, mining, farming. Why am I the only one on this panel?
Well, I think point taken. As you know, the event has started, but certainly point taken, and I'm sure the team at Africa Prudential have noted that. Well, thank you so much for honoring the invitation.
Sure, we need to have a conversation with Mr. Obong after this because we're working with this great company. And as you know, Edo State is an inclusive state. There's 5 or 6 female commissioners in the state. But thank you for inviting me and thank you everybody. I think this is a worthy webinar to have given what you do in terms of providing digital solutions, especially to cooperatives. As you know, we had a great outing during the 100th International Cooperative Day in Edo State, actually the first of its kind in terms of all the events. We had a 2-day event where we marched, we had exhibitions, and we had a talk with the governor, and so many cooperatives came out. In fact, I think a total of about 80-something exhibited their products as well as marching through the streets of Benin. So, you know, it was, if nothing else, told the whole world where the government sits in terms of cooperatives. So, Mr. Obong, thank you for having me here. And as a member of this great panel, even though I'm the only female, I'd like to use this opportunity to increase awareness on the vital role that cooperatives play within our local communities, our nation as well, and especially what the Edo State government is doing to erase poverty, empower the people, and change lives. Cooperatives are the bedrock of any economy. In Edo State, which is the heartbeat of the nation, and that's what they call us in Nigeria, every beat of our great state is kept awake by cooperatives because they comprise of people from the ordinary man to industry leaders who are making a difference in the lives of others by engaging in activities that would help their members grow and also empower them to do greater and better things so that they're not so dependent on the government. It's after the theme of this year's celebrations, Cooperative Builds a Better World, and then with Africa Prudential leveraging technology to drive financial inclusion and collective wealth through cooperatives aptly fits into the Edo State mega agenda, and mega means make Edo great again, where we're building a place that will become the best to live, work, and play for Edolites. The aspiration of our government is to develop a modern and progressive state where every citizen is empowered with opportunities to live a fulfilled life, to make Edo State an economic hub and the first choice for investors, both local and foreign, through the improvement of the state's ease of doing business, transparent investment opportunities, and be ranked #1 in Nigeria for startups and existing businesses. But we can't do any of this if we don't have an entrepreneurial, service-oriented, and high-performing public service, which is what will help us take us from one step to the other. I've been in technology actually pretty much my whole life. I live on technology. In fact, when you're in my office, I have a laptop, I have a Surface, I have 2 phones. Not because I feel like carrying things around, because I just find that, with technology, you can't do anything else but focus on it. My fear is it's one point of success and hopefully never be one source of failure, because the moment we live on our phones and everything now, the moment we don't have access, you feel like, you're empty and you're naked. However, this is literally where we are today, and this is what drives every single economy today. So one of the attractions for me in my current role under the auspices of our governor, His Excellency Governor Obaseki, is his deliberate goal and objectives to make technology part and parcel of the civil service. As we work every day, our goal is to become a technology-driven civil and public service where productivity and service delivery is a hallmark. In fact, that has been seen through the eGov platform that actually runs the state today. Everything goes through eGov. All approvals go through eGov. Memos go through eGov. And literally, we're dropping fiber optics across the state, from Benin to the rural areas. The importance of technology in improving the lives of the citizens into the 24th century certainly cannot be understated, and definitely, especially when you think about cooperatives, when people come together. As we create policies and programs for SMEs and cooperatives, we rely heavily on data in Edo State. In fact, nothing happens if you don't gather the data. Governor says, where is the data? And truly, where is our data? With that data, you can do a lot of things. You can assess it, you can manipulate it, and then you can make significant decisions on that data. So we rely heavily on it, engagement of the public, and the right infrastructure to deliver on the mega agenda goals and objectives. Leveraging technology to drive financial inclusion and collective wealth through cooperative begins to really, truly change the narrative. So I applaud you, Mr. Obong, for what your organization is doing, because I know you were, purely a registrar at some point as a company. When I took office in March 2022, my first meeting with my boss was very clear. I walked in, we were there for about 5 minutes, and he says, fix cooperatives, period. In fact, I was introduced with my ministry as wealth creation and employment, but actually the ministry has been changed to the Ministry of Industry, Trade, and Cooperatives. Very, very major changes have happened as a result of just changing that name, as it were. However, subsequent meetings after I met with my boss, with my team, confirmed that the change required was literally to look at cooperatives as a whole, verify the data, the number of cooperatives in the state, what they were doing, how they were broken up, how we were supporting them, basically, and then analyze that data with a view to digitizing, automating, and implementing a technology-driven process of managing cooperatives in Edo State, because it was very clear to me that, with people coming into the office, wherever they are, if you want people to come, you've got to build for them to come. And, people walking in, first of all, not even understanding what cooperatives are all about. All they hear is government won't give us money. So you hear cooperatives, you hear government, you hear money, and you're showing up in the office. For me, that is not practical. You have to have a system in place that helps the people understand and, create a knowledge base on your website that says, here is what, cooperatives are all about. Here are the benefits. Here's what you have to do. And then from anywhere in the world, you can just go ahead, click on the app, and then go ahead and register. And then the entire process just flows after that. For me, this is my mandate in terms of cooperatives, but then taking it further in terms of alleviating poverty and making sure that the people can get empowered into doing what they need to do. So this was going to ensure that we needed to learn about cooperatives. They could register online, they could view their status online, they could make their payments online, and most importantly, which is the biggest thing for me as I take on this massive role, is to match cooperative societies with incentives and opportunities. As a result, I'm on this panel today because Africa Prudential got the call for us to look at digitizing and automating this process. We've had quite a series of meetings, and I must commend your team, Mr. Obong, in terms of driving the solution for us, because we're very deliberate on what we're doing. And with cooperatives being, the bedrock of Edo State, we want to increase the number of cooperatives in terms of starting from the informal. People miss the informal economy a lot. We just see what we see, and then we say, okay, yes, we can put them together. So looking at the informal economy, look at the formal economy, even look at the rural areas, build clusters, create clusters. And that way, not only can they create capacity, of course, they create employment, access to markets, and all of that. And it starts with having a central point where we can see this data and be able to manipulate it, filter through, and see, what is best for the cooperatives. This day for me also, in terms of the 100 days, provided an opportunity for us to strengthen and extend partnerships between the cooperatives, other bodies, and our government. And these collaborative structures and synergies are not just at local domestic levels, but are increasingly at regional and global levels. So when we had the exhibition recently, even though we invited a lot of the cooperatives to attend, we invited the regulatory bodies, we invited the financial institutions, and then of course the government. And together, collectively, between having discussions and being at the exhibitions and opening it up to even registration, you had synergy going on, because these were people who probably, for lack of a better word, had never been brought together before in one location to be able to discuss. And of course, as that starts to happen, you start to see more engagement, you see more partnerships, and then more will and zeal to be able to help bring, the value of cooperatives to the fore. In Edo State, our political, social, and economic development is inextricably linked with the growth of cooperative societies. We continue to see an increase in registrations since we embarked on the massive awareness campaign in second quarter 2022. We went on radio, we went on TV, of course, social media. And by the time we had cleaned up the data that we met on ground, we had registered about 900 cooperative societies with approximately 200, newly registered in the last month or so. Over 100 re-verifications, because it's one thing to say we have a database of 900 cooperatives. Do we know where they are? When was the last time we actually even visited them? Are they trained? Do they even know why they're cooperatives? Do they know what they're doing? Do they even understand what is out there in terms of benefits and opportunities? So our diverse cooperative sector, based on some of these plans that we have in place, we're looking to see a significant growth that will no doubt help to improve the lives of its members, tap into opportunities, and build a better world. Africa Prudential, you guys got the call, and together I'm hoping that we can build that digital solution that will directly solve a lot of the challenges that the cooperatives face. I think if they know tomorrow that they don't have to go, from all the way from maybe Uromi to, Benin to register, I think that would make a big difference. It will help people even understand what they need to do when they need to do it. We're currently creating a database that formats each cooperative by sector and trade, including gender. One of the things that happened recently there's a fund called the Brave Woman Fund, and we found out that the first go around when I wasn't in office, the turnout was very low. There were very few women who registered in Edo State. One of the things that we quickly did, now that we're building this database, was for us to go into the database and see which cooperatives were women dominated or women based. Based on that, we established a number of cooperatives that were solely women. We invited them to the office. First of all, they thought, it's not true. No, it's not free money. I mean, Brave Woman Fund is a grant. It's free money, but it's not free in the sense you have to provide a lot of stuff, right? So they showed up in the office and they now believed what we said because we made that call as a result of having that data to be able to reach out to them. And they came and they registered. In addition to their invaluable contribution to individual prosperity and to our national economy, this sector is a towering example of what can be achieved through unity, through coming together for the common good, through hard work, enterprise, sacrifice, and unyielding commitment to positive goals. It's for this reason that since assuming office, our state governor, His Excellency Godwin Obaseki, has placed the cooperative sector at the heart of the mega development agenda, which is a 30-year plan to make Edo State the best to live and work for Edoites and invite foreign investments as well. In my ministry, we've recognized this importance in wealth and employment creation, and as a result, we have revamped the department. We've invested in people and prioritized that need to grow the area, including the rural communities and the informal sector. We've engaged the people. We're having regular meetings. If we're not doing webinars, they're actually coming into the office. And then as a goal, as our goal is to serve as facilitators, really, and that's what the government is, facilitating and enabling an environment to clear the path for cooperatives so that they can actually support their members and realize their full potential. In this regard, one of the things we're doing as a ministry is working with GIZ to initiate policies and regulatory measures which are designed to create an enabling environment for the cooperatives. This has started as well. This will obviously help to create jobs and help them thrive. In addition, my ministry has kicked off a number of initiatives that I would leave everybody with as I round up. And this is for us a deliberate effort to impact lives, realize dreams, and eliminate poverty. One of them, of course, is create policies, for not just cooperatives, but for the state as a whole, looking at all aspects of the government. Industrialization, we're building a business industrial park along the Osomo power plant, which the governor put in place. That would obviously create a cluster of businesses and industry to come together to actually sell their wares. And given that one of the struggles in Nigeria for you to grow your businesses into industry is this thing called power. Well, we've created the power. And so building that industrial park means, we get businesses together and industry, and there's more synergy when you have industries together as well. The Farm to Table initiative is my personal passion, where my goal is to get 10 shelf-ready products from the farm to the table. And that included engaging with all the regulatory bodies in Edo State the moment I took office. Let's talk about this. What do we need to do? Why do we have more products from out of Edo State in the stores than we do Edo State? So those conversations started, those conversations are still happening. We're engaging these brands, we're looking at their brands, we're dialoguing, we're helping them transform their brands so that they're shelf ready so they can compete not on the local shelves, but also in Nigeria and globally as well. eConnect for Edo manufacturers. Once again, you can't get away from technology. This for me puts the light on Edo farmers, Edo manufacturers, Edo processors. So all we're looking to do is just build a website and the people will come. So I say, you know what, Joe or Mr. Wale has a farm in, say, Isako East. We should have everything about Wale's farm on that website. So if you're looking for, anybody who sells, say, cashew nuts and you want a ton a month, you should be able to go to that site, or you go into Google, you do a search, and we should come up. For me, this is the enabling environment that we need to help our people grow, because once you create that market access and visibility, at that point, they transact, right? And for me, for us to be able to even take that one step further, we have cooperatives behind this database. And so if Joe in the US needs a ton every month, and one person, of course, cannot meet that 1 ton, the expectation is we have created cooperatives and clusters all the way to the rural economy, to the rural locations that would respond to this buyer's need. And then at that point, they shake hands and they transact as well. And then the Made in Edo export program, our goal is to open the Made in Edo products to the world. It rains in Edo State practically throughout the year, which makes the soil very fertile. We have so many natural resources in Edo State, and I'm proud to be a daughter of the state. And so what we're looking to do is not just keep that realization in Edo State, take it to Nigeria and take it to the global market. I recently brought a 40-man Miami Trade Mission delegation to Edo State about 2 weeks ago, and they were hosted by our governor. And it was amazing. And it was just telling everybody, we are ready for business. Our cooperatives, our people, our farmers, our manufacturers, we are ready for business. And Miami, the commissioners came in and said, we're open to you guys, transacting with us. Let's have a conversation. So that in itself sets the tone, in terms of what is possible. When you think about technology, when you think about our people, when you think about, the fact that you have the buyer on one hand and you have the seller on one hand, and let's get them together. And then also we're building the Benin River Port, excuse me, which will then allow us to be able to move our goods right there in Edo State, straight to the water. So in essence, there's a lot coming down the pike, and all of this just goes to say, it's all about making, Edo State great again, making it the one-stop shop. If you even think geographically, Edo State is right there in terms of transition through Nigeria. You can't literally go by road to other states without going through Edo State. So as I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you all to join me in applauding the significant contribution and positive impact that cooperatives in Edo State and across the globe have had, and a lot of the work that we're doing as a government as an enabler. There's a lot of work ahead as we move through all of this, and it starts with a reorientation, actions on the part of government to rebuild the trust in the people, engagement and interactions and discussions like this that creates an action plan for us to execute. Uniting families, building communities, and building a better world is why cooperative societies are the bedrock of any economy. This is the unity that we live for. And I want to say thank you very much once again for inviting me onto this program. This is the kind of discussion that we need to continue to have so that we can make this a better place for cooperatives. So thank you very much, Mr. Obong, and thank you very much, Wale.
Thank you very much, Honorable Commissioner. I think very well said. Covered so much in there. And we certainly look forward to unpacking some of the themes that you have highlighted in your keynote address. I see some applause on the chat, so clearly it was quite impactful, all that you said. I'm sure you're opening the eyes of many to what is indeed happening in Edo State, but even more broadly Nigeria. So thank you so much for making the time, and thank you for joining us again. And I would like to, on that note, make a small appeal, more so because you've already highlighted the point about you being the only woman on this on the panel. So I would like to invite you to join the panel as I introduce them now. I know we did have you scheduled as a keynote speaker, but I'm sure your insights will also be very valuable indeed. So thank you so much. I see you nodding, so I believe that you've accepted that invitation. So before I just go into inviting the panelists, just want to appreciate all those of you that are joining us from across the world. Earlier, I asked that we should type in where we're joining from, and I saw some really interesting messages there. I see that we have some people joining us from Toronto, Manitoba, Canada. We have some from Tanzania, London, England, of course, different parts of Nigeria, Virginia in the USA. So it's really good to see that this is a topic that many across the world are joining in to be part of. And I did mention earlier that you would also have the opportunity as attendees to chime in, so to ask your questions and to share your comments. And to do that, again, I would like to encourage you to use the Q&A field, not the general chat field, because it's likely that your messages will get lost in all the chatter there. So please, if you have a question or comment, please type it into the Q&A field. We certainly look forward to getting to them as we proceed. All right, so on that note, I'd like to now invite our panelists, and starting, I did mention him earlier, and I'll just do a brief introduction as I invite each of them to join us for this. Starting with Mr. Isaiah Owolabi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Enhancing Financial Innovation and Access, otherwise known as EFINA. It's an organization focused on accelerating the impact of financial and economic inclusion intervention in Nigeria. They're doing incredible work, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about that as we proceed. He has previously served as the CEO of the Nigerian Business Coalition Against AIDS, where he led efforts with other partners to launch the $100 million US dollar HIV Trust Fund of Nigeria. So thank you so much, Isaiah, for joining us for this.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. And we also have Mr. Henry Chukwu. He's a digital finance and policy expert with a cross-functional background in digital financial services, fintech, agent banking, very important when we're talking financial inclusion, no doubt, microfinance, policy advocacy, program management, and operational strategies. He has extensive experience working within the low-income segment, developing and deploying inclusive financial products and services. He has been active in supporting stakeholders within the financial sector through his work around research, technical advisory, and policy advocacy. Henry, it's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. We also have engineer Charles Ameh. Charles is a seasoned health and safety professional with broad experiences in safety management, incident investigation and reporting, database management, environmental impact assessment, oil spill, site remediation, hazardous waste management, occupational exposure monitoring, amongst others. But perhaps even more relevant to today's conversation, he served on the management committee of the Chevron Employees Multipurpose Cooperative Society as the General Secretary from March 2020 to March 2022, and he is currently the president of the same society. So, Engineer Charles, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you. We also have SP Aliyu Giwa, who is currently the Liaison Officer, Nigeria Police Force, Public Relations Department, and also Public Relations Officer for Nigeria's Police Cooperative Society. He was the former Deputy Public Relations Officer, Lagos State Police Command, and nominee for the Future Awards. He is a social media enthusiast, vast in knowledge of the trending topics and happenings in today's societies. His contributions to the Nigerian Police Cooperative Society has been the cooperative transcending into using technology to automate its processes and improve the cooperative system. SP Giwa, it's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Nice being here.
Great. And last but certainly not least, we have joining us to give us the Africa Prudential view on today's topic, Mr. David Ogunshola. David is a knowledgeable IT leader, consultant, and resource manager who has led cross-functional teams to achieve excellence in an innovative, analytical, and technically inclined approach. He is currently the CTO at Africa Prudential. David, it's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you so much, Wale.
All right. So, Honorable Commissioner, thank you for also being part of this. And I want to get started, maybe going to Efina first, and just to get Isaiah's thoughts on today's theme. Isaiah, if you would just maybe speak to what you consider the policy priorities of the government in relation to unleashing the capacity of cooperatives to drive financial inclusion, because that is a big theme, a big part of the conversation that we're having today.
Thank you very much. And before I go straight into your question, I'd like to also provide a background, because at EFINA, you know that what we do is all based on evidence and data. We lead the Access to Financial Services Survey since 2008. And that's sort of the CBN and other key partners benchmark on measuring financial inclusion in Nigeria. And that's why it's important to give some statistical background or data to support some of these things and why this should be a priority for government. A third of Nigerians use informal financial services to manage some of their financial needs. And now, if you think about that, that's 1 in 3 of adults in Nigeria using informal financial services. If you look at the trend in recent time, you realize that the number of adults using informal services increased by 5.3 million just between 2018 and 2020. Now, that's huge numbers. If you then think about the priority of unleashing the capacity of cooperatives to drive financial inclusion, in Nigeria, you see that there are big opportunities in terms of driving financial inclusion and leveraging cooperatives to achieve that. If you look at the latest draft of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy from CBN, you realize that some of these priorities also align, especially when we consider the financially excluded segment, women, farmers, micro SMEs, and you realize that cooperative present a world of opportunities for driving financial inclusion for this segment. One of the strategic imperatives for increasing the adoption and use of financial services for priority demographics is the repositioning of MSI, that's microfinance institutions and cooperatives, definitely for financial inclusion. But most importantly, I think we have definitely come to the time to review the age-long National Cooperative Development Policy Act of 2002 and the Nigerian Cooperative Society Act of 2004. Definitely, this would help to give more policy, legal direction, and accommodate modern realities in view of sustainable and self-help opportunities that are found in cooperatives. So if you think about all of this, you realize, one, why considering cooperatives in terms of leveraging the impact of financial inclusion programs is a big opportunity. And the second thing is the fact that from all financial inclusion angles, not just, I know a lot of people, when we think about financial inclusion, we think about opening bank accounts and participating in the banking system. That's one of it. But we also need to think about insurance, microinsurance, and also pension. We need to think about how policy priorities could make sure that beyond opening bank accounts, millions of Nigerians also have pensions or micro pension. And especially if you realize that most of the adult population of Nigeria today, by the time they are 50, 60-year-old, when they stop working, they do not have access to pension. What does that mean for their ability to live to their potential in their old age? So these are some of the things that we might need to consider, or that policy priorities is considering in terms of financial inclusion and how cooperatives can drive some of this inclusion. I'll leave it at this point.
Sure.
Yeah, let you continue.
No, thank you so much. I mean, I really like the point you made about revisiting some of the laws of the land. Clearly, a legal framework can do so much to make the impact that we are seeking here. But let's hear a little from the experience of some of those in the game, if you like, in terms of being involved in not just managing cooperatives, but also using technology to see that transformation. So I'd like to get the perspective of the police now as I go to SP Ali Ogewa. Can you just share the police cooperatives experience on the impact of cooperatives on wealth creation and financial inclusion? And you can discuss the products and solutions that you have worked, and those you will like to implement but are unable to, and others that potentially are in the pipeline. I know there's a lot in there, but I'd love to hear from
you. Thank you very much for giving me this space. So to start with, the Nigerian Police Cooperative, as we all know, is the largest cooperative in West Africa, which we have members of about ranging between 300,000 to 400,000 police officers as members of the cooperative. And over time, we have issues in transaction because, you know, most of our policemen are from different state zones.
Okay. Sure if it's just me, but struggling to hear. All right. I think.
So it has been a very.
Sorry, we seem to have lost you momentarily there. Can you just summarize your point again? I think we had a problem with the connection.
Okay. So over time, we've had the issue of transacting with our members because the Nigerian police cooperative is stated in Lagos, and we have members from cut across all the states, from Maiduguri, Kano, and all of that. So over time, we had to involve and like create a solution that you don't need to be present in Lagos before you be able to do transaction over other states. So we're able to create that solution, which African Prudential is where we're partners with them, and we're able to do that over time. Within the percentage of transaction rose between 2019 to now. I think we have a high number of people.
I think we are losing you again.
So we have, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Sorry, we lost you briefly for about 30 seconds, but go ahead, please.
Yeah, so in the Nigerian police, we have statutory withdrawal money that is involved in the cooperative, and we have the voluntary. The statutory is more like compulsory, and we have the what they call it, the voluntary. So most of the times we have people who voluntarily contribute, and you contribute about 20,000, 30,000, and you want to withdraw 60,000. You come all the way from Maiduguri, and you understand with the level of the situation in Nigeria at the moment. We don't need our policemen getting all tensed up and getting all involved in movement, about 18 hours movement just to withdraw some amount of money. So we created that solution, and so far so good. The solution has been very helpful, and the amount of police officers who are voluntarily doing the contribution over time between the past 2 years rose between 20% to about 68% as of last month's data. So right. I mean, it's been the technology aspect of cooperative money transaction with cooperative has been very helpful for Nigerian police over time. And we have a lot of things coming up in that regard, because the solution is just like a banking platform, which we will still have some other solution that we want to put in place. And we're still working with Africa Prudential regarding that. And
but if I may ask very quickly, what's the touch point for members to get on this platform? Is it their phones or a website, or how exactly?
Yeah, we have the website. We have the landing page, which is just the Nigerian Police Cooperative.com, Nigerian Police Cooperative NG.com. So it just involved their, we have our badge number. The badge number is either the first number or the appointment number. So senior officers have the appointment number, while the junior officers have the first number. So you just your number, your police number acts like the NIN, quote unquote, for you to register. So it's more like a platform that has everything details, and we have good database in that regard in regarding the platform.
We will certainly talk about what that data is enabling in terms of even providing more services to members. But I'd like to now go to Mr. Henry Chukwu to just get his perspective, looking more broadly in terms of the impact that cooperatives can make and how we need to make policy changes. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this, maybe carrying on from the points that Isaiah Olabi made earlier.
All right, thank you so much, Wale. It's really a pleasure to be part of this conversation. I'm going to piggyback on some of the points raised by Isaiah, right? First, I would say that cooperatives are important tool for driving financial inclusion in Nigeria. As Isaiah rightly mentioned, we have currently, according to the Access to Finance Survey, 13.6% of adults in Nigeria use informal financial services. And most of these financial services are being offered by cooperatives. Beyond the thrift and credit cooperative that exist in communities and market, we have a lot of non-bank financial service providers, rolling out financial services, leveraging the cooperative registration. So it's actually very key in driving financial inclusion. But talking about the priority areas, for me, I think I have like 2 points, right? First is going to be around regulation of cooperative offering financial services. Though that the Nigerian Cooperative Society is regulated by the Nigerian Cooperative Society Act, but which grants the state government the right to establish directorates, right? In most states, this directorate sits with State Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Agriculture, as rightly mentioned by the commissioner, right? But what we have noticed is that majority of these directorates don't really regulate, supervise the activities of this cooperative and regulate them properly. And you know that a lot of people are beginning to take, as I mentioned about the number of people using informal financial services. So there's also some level of exposure as well. So customers, it can as well affect when customers engage with a lot of rogue cooperatives, because again, the concept of cooperative has been bastardized in Nigeria. When you hear cooperative, what comes to mind is forming an association to get government grants, to get money from government. And sometimes when they get the money, they dissolve. In Nigeria, it's difficult for you to hear except for some established organizations, right? To see a cooperative that started organically and have grown over the years, right? So there's need for us to revisit some of the laws, especially on how to best regulate cooperative at the national level. And at the same time,
sorry to interrupt you. What type of changes would you expect that those laws will force or implement? I guess one of the points, perhaps just following what you've just mentioned, is the incentive to even form the cooperative in the first place. It shouldn't be a grant-seeking organization per se, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts about the specific changes that you think need to be implemented.
So speaking about what the motivation for even forming a cooperative is something that should be prompted. You don't need somebody the incentive has to come from a shared common issues, right? You have a common problem, you're motivated to come together, you can't solve on your own, you decide to identify other people that have common issues, bring your resources together to solve that, right? In terms of what should this policy, what should it solve really? For me, I think we have to look at it from the standpoint of cooperative. There's principles of cooperative and values of cooperative. So all the cooperatives existing should be operated around that 7 principles of cooperative. The directorate of this of cooperatives across states should from time to time visit cooperative, carry out audits and all of that. And a lot of states don't even do that. After the registration, the cooperative continue to run and they don't really monitor that. I'm also happy to hear what Edo State government is doing around cooperative. So for me, I think there's need to build capacity of the regulator, if the directorate to be able to manage these cooperatives. But at the same time, moving to the financial sector space, right? CBN also has a way of monitoring the market. Once a cooperative, especially those offering financial services, get to a certain level, they are forced to pick up a license from CBN. It's the microfinance bank license. And if you look at some of the trend in the fintech space, you see that it's actually a journey. The cooperative provides a kind of a soft landing to enter to offer some basic financial services. And from there, the product life cycle gets to a point. Some of the operators of this cooperative tend to pick up a license from a regulator.
Understood. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. And I think this is perhaps a good moment to go back to the Honorable Commissioner to have her perhaps react to some of the points you've made, but also for me to pose a question to her on the vision that they have over there in Edo State. Earlier you mentioned the Farm to Table initiative. Perhaps you may want to speak briefly about how that is working out. And earlier, Obong also mentioned farm cooperatives, and that really got my attention, because if there's any cooperative society that I think is underperforming in Nigeria. When we look at what is happening elsewhere in places like East Africa, it's certainly the farm cooperative. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts about how we can really unleash the potential of those groups.
Thank you, Wale. Thank you very much. Before I go to the farm to table question, I just wanted to piggyback on what the last panelist talked about in terms of revisiting the regulations for cooperatives and monitoring cooperatives. One of the things I talked about as I was making my speech is in terms of actually revamping the cooperative department. And what we did, and I believe Mrs. Anama is on the call, is led by a woman, actually, very proud of her. In 3 months, we have seen significant changes in cooperatives. And in fact, if you attended our cooperative day celebration, either by Zoom or physically, the word from the cooperatives across the state was a new dawn, a new dawn, and a new dawn for Edo States with the cooperatives here. What we've done as well is we have actually created 3 various departments within that department to have people who the entire life is focused on training the cooperatives, because exactly what he said, a lot of them come in and they just hear government grants and they jump in and then you lose them at that point. One of the very first things she did once she took over this role was to conduct a re-verification exercise. And that literally means going through all 900 plus cooperatives in the state, sending people out there, going back to even visit, just to make sure that they are even where they say they are, and helping them determine, do you still want to continue? Do you still want to do, what are you even doing together collectively as a cooperative? That's one. Secondly, is making sure that if you're saying you want to register your cooperative, making sure you understand what it means to register a cooperative. Do you guys have a goal together? And the minimum here is 10, so minimum 10 people coming together to form a cooperative. Why are you guys forming this cooperative? What is the essence and what are the benefits? And if literally they say, oh, we heard government is it, no, let's back up a bit, help you understand what a cooperative means. And we're seeing a lot of what the last panelist was saying, where this is why people are joining, but then helping educate people, which is why I talked about a reorientation. This is what people have known forever. You hear money, you're running. Is helping people understand. And all of this is done, thank God for social media. We use the TV a lot. We use the radio a lot to help sensitize people, saying, this is the reason why you should join a cooperative. And we've done it in different languages. We've even done it in Pidgin as well. And, you can see the response coming. In terms of the Farm to Table program, we just started a few months ago. And the first thing we've done, first of all, is even start to identify the brand owners in the state. We, in partnership with GIZ, we trained within 3 months, 600 plus SMEs on financial literacy. And we also collaborated with Bank of Industry so that if you attended the training, then you also have an opportunity to apply for a loan with Bank of Industry. And that has worked out so well. What we've also done is bring those groups into WhatsApp platforms. We are working with these groups, all 600 broken in different chunks, helping to understand what they do. So this is where we start gathering the data. What are your products? Then we talk about clustering, we talk about bookkeeping, we talk about packaging, then we talk about, coming together to form cooperatives, which is very important. Another thing we've done here is, invited all the farmers, there's all farmers, there's FACEN. If you're doing soybeans, they have a cluster. If you're doing cashew nuts in Edo North, they have a cluster. We've invited all of these farming communities, their leaders and their associations to come together to the offices. And we've been having conversations in terms of saying, guys, it's not just about getting fertilizer. It's not just about farming. It's about making sure that we can sell your products, not we, but providing that enabling environment to sell your products. So we need you. We don't want, 500 farmers who do 500 different things forming a cooperative. We want to now take that one step back and say, you know what, let's peel back this onion and say, everybody who is in cashew nuts, let's get you together. Because if I have a buyer today that wants 10 tons of cashew nuts every month, it will be hard for me to filter through if I'm using the Africa Prudential, platform to filter, okay, which of them, do cashew nuts. Then we now have to start gathering this data. How about if we start now and we start breaking you guys, we'll keep the whole global cooperative together, but let's take that one step back and then get the cashew nuts together, and then we know what's the size of your farms, what kind of chemicals do you use, where are you located, how much can you possibly provide on a monthly basis. That information is what we then put in that database. And thereafter, once we get buyers, it's easy to go into that database, identify the farming, the cashew nut farmers cooperative, and then we match them. And there, at that point, you guys transact. So a lot of that is going on. We're taking a lot of baby steps because this for us is long-term. Even after I'm gone, I want them to be able to continue to do this. So we're gathering a lot of data at the moment. We're having a lot of conversations with a lot of the associations, including the regulatory bodies, because you can't go very far without NAFDAC, without SON, without the quarantine, and then of course the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Incidentally, all of that is happening at the same time, which is why we had to take a closer look at the department, make sure we have the right people there, doing what they need to do. We talked about audits as well. Those are going on. We actually even attend the AGMs as well. So a lot of that is going on. And I must say that, we took the first 7 brands to the NACI Trade Fair in Lagos 2 months ago. It was their first outing. We did extremely well. We brought them back and we continue to work with them. So that's it. So in a nutshell, without taking too much of your time, this is what's going on at the moment.
Well, that's very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I imagine that could spark some more questions from the audience. I see a few questions have already come through and we'll be getting to them shortly, but I just wanted to reiterate the point that if you are joining us for this webinar and you have a question or comment based on what you've heard or some thoughts you have about the whole concept of using technology to drive the success of cooperatives and financial inclusion, please do your best to type them into the Q&A field, not the general chat field, so they don't get lost in there. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get back right now to hear from another practitioner, if you like, the president of the Chevron Employees Multipurpose Cooperative Society. Charles, obviously, when we talk about using technology, one of the outcomes of that is data, the data that we're able to gather. So as you reflect on the level of adoption of technology and its impact on your operations, maybe you can also speak to the value of the data that is generated by using this technology.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. I appreciate all the different perspectives my co-panelists have brought to the discussion so far. So in leveraging technology, I will want to give a bit of background of where we were and where we are today as Chevron Employee Multipurpose Cooperative Society. And I believe that will highlight some of the progress we have made and the advantages technology has brought to our operation. So Chevron Employee Multipurpose Cooperative Society started just as a thrift and cooperative society in 1966. So I'm sure we can all imagine how the operations were being run then. But we have grown significantly to where we are today. We have about 2,206 members. And in fact, we have 2 subsidiaries. We have a microfinance bank. We also have a travel center agency. So we our footprint is spread wide, right? Again, our diversity is also changing. So to give a basic example, when I came in as the general secretary, we had about 300 retiree members of the cooperative, but today we have close to 600 retiree members, and that diversity is very key. So that
if you can just explain. Sorry to jump in. What are retiree members? Does that mean they have left the employment of Chevron and they are still members of the cooperative? Is that what that means?
Yes. So they have left the employment of Chevron. So they are currently retirees of Chevron, but they are our members. So our membership diversity is both regular members and retiree members. And that diversity is changing. And the retirees we are having these days are actually tech-savvy retirees, right? So when I came in as president, seeing the change in diversity, my major goal was to focus on leveraging technology to be able to penetrate that space, because the feedback from the retirees over the years has been their inability to access most of the products, our loan products, fixed deposit products that we usually we have for our members, real estate products, our travel and tours products, our e-commerce products, and all of that. And the simple reason is because the cooperative piggybacks on the technology platform of the company, that's the parent company. And once you leave the employment of the company as a retiree, you really do not have access to the company system anymore. When you do not have access to the company system, you need somebody in the cooperative office to attend to you as a retiree member. And that becomes a whole lot difficult. It's cumbersome. You have to call someone on phone and all of that. So the core focus of my team immediately we came in was to see how we can gain our independence in terms of technology, leverage on technology so we can allow our retirees to access the current products we have and also even deploy more products to the retirees that are technology based, because again, this diversity will keep increasing. At a point, you may even have more retiree members than regular members. So what do you do then? You have to think about the sustainability of the business. So that's where data comes in. And data has to drive what you do. If you are looking at the future to sustain the business, you have to actually leverage on data, because this number will keep increasing, And for us to deliver the core purpose of the cooperative, we have to be able to listen and get feedback from our members and be able to deliver products that speak to their needs at every point in time and also keep changing. You can't do all of that without technology. I'm sure where we started and where we are now, when people look at it, it's a significant world of difference. So my core goal in coming in was to say, I need to take the cooperative from where it is to where members can sit in the comfort of their homes, wherever they are all over the world, and do their transactions with so much ease and convenience and comfort without calling anybody. They do their transactions. And we have a plethora of products that this membership base cannot access. Without technology, there's no way we can be able to leverage on that value that we should get from this group of members.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I mean, that's quite enlightening. And no doubt, I'm sure since 1966, it's like night and day in terms of your operations today, no doubt. All right. Let's go now to David at Africa Prudential. And David, Africa Prudential is obviously unleashing all types of solutions, not just to the cooperative space, which is our focus today, but indeed for the rest of the economy. But I wanted to hear your thoughts about challenges relating to the adoption of technology. I mean, so far we've heard about the benefits, and we're seeing how it's been able to change the police cooperative, no doubt the Chevron cooperative. But quite often we see that adoption can be slow sometimes. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts about the challenges and hurdles that organizations who are currently running up cooperatives or are considering to do that may face in the adoption of technology.
All right. Thank you very much, Wally. For cooperative societies are based on certain values, which include self-help, self-responsibility, equity, solidarity, and the solutions that we bring in to solve those problems sometimes are faced with quite a number of challenges also. And many of those challenges are the things that we try to respond to in our solutions. And I'll just quickly run through the biggest challenges that you have in trying to move from what you would call the traditional cooperative societies into digital cooperatives. I think one of the biggest problems will be identification, things like internet, location, like the Honorable Commissioner had mentioned earlier, electricity, interoperability of payment systems, engagement from a customer support point of view, inclusion, just like the Honorable Commissioner had mentioned, remittances, issues that has to do with pension or micro pension and insurance. So what we try to do in the solutions that we build are to ensure that those processes that are inherent in every cooperative, like enrollment, contributions, deductions, remittances, and things like that, are eliminated through digitalizing those processes by ensuring that you have digital channels in which engagement, onboarding, and those processes can easily come in, to ensure that you build customized or digital products for the people, to ensure that I'm able to give you a product that helps to solve your problem. My biggest problem might be how to pay my child's school fees, and I need to be able to separate that savings from other things. We could quickly knock off a digital product to attend to that issue. And most importantly, data analytics that provides you that empirical data to make all those decisions, just like the engineer has spoken about, and most of all those challenges that the Honorable Commissioner also had spoken about. So some of these solutions can customize, bespoke. The challenges are not, why they are universal challenges, they are challenges that are sometimes just focused on a particular sector, a particular type of cooperative, a particular terrain, and things like that. Just like I've mentioned those issues around internet, it's a different challenge when you're in rural Nigeria to, say, urban Nigeria, where you have access to certain devices or connections like 3G or 4G, and in some cases you just have to deal with 2G and things like that. And of course, I purposely did not mention education earlier, because we found out that with right exposure, people are able to navigate around tools and solutions to be able to fulfill their needs.
Right.
At Prudential, what we try to do is to respond to those cooperative management specific solutions and other solutions in the ecosystem that would help fix those issues. Our flagship product is called EasyCo, which is a multi-tenancy cooperative management solution that you can self-onboard, self-organize yourself, your group, people that are in the same category as you are, and you can do those basic cooperative management solutions, enumerations. You could integrate into vast solutions, because those solutions we build are modular, interpretable, and can always plug into what you need to do. And they are based on cloud services, so it's easily accessible everywhere you are. So that's it. And we have the customized one, just like SP Gilbert mentioned, where we'll build specifically to taste for either what you want to do in the police force in this case, and also adapt to what you want to do, like what we are trying to achieve with the Honorable Commissioner. I must quickly just mention 3 other products that we have that also support what you have in the cooperative ecosystem. We have a solution called APEMS. APEMS is our corporate meeting event solutions that can help you also organize those cooperatives. People don't have to be in the same location. People can have their meetings, share secure documents. They can do bulk payment, ticketing. They can vote on resolutions. They can select their leaders. They can form a quorum on things like that. So APEMS is a solution to look out for. You can check those out on our website. We have a solution also called Inven. And Inven is like our secure API solution that gives you access to a capital market org. You know, when it comes to wealth creation and financial inclusion, you can only achieve that by not just saving. You need to be able to allow those your saved amount to form a parallel stream of income for you, so that you can achieve. And the way you can do that is by investing. So Inven allows you to not wait till you have the dollars or billions to invest. So you can participate in the capital market. You can participate in foreign stocks and things like that. And lastly, I will always just want to quickly talk about Red Deals, which is our marketplace. And what that allows you to do is to replicate the same thing that happens in cooperatives, where people can bulk buy at discounted prices, but do that digitally and things like that. So I'm sure that after this event on our sites, and we'll be able to share a bit more information. Thank you very much, Wally.
No doubt. Thank you so much, David. And it's great to hear about the solutions that you're offering at Africa Prudential. And as you continue to speak there, it just occurred to me that with technology, it simply just allows you to do pretty much everything that you are able to do, but just with so much more ease, and add so much more on top of that, as you mentioned with the other solutions that you are offering. Thank you so much for that. All right. I always like to say that these events are not about the speakers or the moderator, they're about the audience. So we have quite a few questions that have come through. So I want us to begin to take some of them. The first one will go to the Honorable Commissioner. Ronke Macaulay is congratulating you on getting off to a flying start. But her question is, what are the security implications of using technology in financial transactions and for cooperatives? And what steps are you taking to ensure the risk of fraud or other financial losses are mitigated? So just maybe you want to speak briefly to that, Honorable Commissioner.
Hey, Ronke, thanks for joining and thanks for that question. What I'd like to say here is I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we may be the first state in the Federation that is actually looking to digitize the registration and monitoring of cooperatives. In this regard, we are not involved in any of the transactions of the cooperatives. We don't tap into any of that stuff. What we're doing is looking for a module of these lovely, great solutions that Africa Prudential has to offer, so that we can allow cooperatives register from wherever they are. They can also, view the status of whether they have valid certificates or not, certificates of cooperatives, and also be able to match them with incentives and programs as they come up. When it comes time to pay, they pay on the ERAS platform, which is directly into the Edo State government platform. They do that remotely. It literally integrates on the back end to that system so they can pay. So in terms of security, I think the only thing I would say is the typical security issues, which could be things like, someone hacking into your system, which is a general problem. So there's all of that in terms of making sure that you have the right, like antivirus system in place, password resets, things like that. So in terms of making sure that we don't engage in fraud, first of all, we have an eGov platform that is used in Edo State to manage the government, and that has worked very, very well. I'm online right now, I'm working remotely into my office. So in terms of fraud, I think it's a general problem, but once again, our solution for the cooperatives is not in the end where they transact, they buy. It's all about registration, monitoring, like we talked about, making sure that they have all the information from the, the Cooperative Act information, how, what, why, training, auditing, things like that, having that information readily available on the system. Thanks for that question.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for clarifying that. And before I go to further questions, I just wanted to invite Obong Idiong, the CEO of Africa Prudential, to just chime in briefly on some of the discussions we've had so far. Obong, do you have some thoughts to share?
Yeah, thanks, Wale. And I think very, very interesting. I've had, you should see my notes. I think I can just put a few of the speaker's thoughts in about 3 or 4 buckets. First, it's very, very clear that cooperatives, are very, very key to enable growth in any economy, because it's the SMEs, the middle and small enterprises that drive growth. And if you see what's happening in the US or in the Scandinavian countries, or even East Africa, where you see a lot of cooperatives doing a lot in terms of contribution to the GDP. I think in listening to all the speakers, I think one thing that comes out very, very strongly is the need for an enabling environment, as we see in Edo State. And it's not just, one hat fits all. You can see where there is very, very specific, very, very specific interventions to have. And you heard when the Honorable Commissioner talked about, classifying and categorizing them, because that can create more scale from the different type of farmers and the produce they make. That can create a lot of scale. I also hear a lot of data coming up, and of course, in terms of making those informed decisions, and I think that, going back to the enabling environment, it's good. There's a lot of conversations going on with the new reviewing the Cooperative Act and everything, but I think that governments have a role to play as Edo State. They should look at that as an example. And I think that in terms of data, that's another thing that, especially in these parts, that's another thing that we should start seeing how, of course, with these platforms comes a lot of, information and a lot of data that can allow us make informed decisions, but most especially can allow us to innovate and meet this cooperative. We need local solutions for the problems they're facing, local solutions and specific solutions to address some of those specific problems. And I think that without the data to actually look and interpret and see and even innovate on more of those solutions that will drive these problems, then there's not much we can do. But I think this is a good start. If you notice, we started with financial inclusion, but we've seen that's just one aspect of the very, very wide range of problems that we have within the cooperative. But it comes to this kind of advocacy, it comes to this kind of conversations. And I think that, it's very nice to hear what a lot of the industry players are doing. And I think that we can take it forward and we can go far. One of the areas, like if you look at the rural areas, I'm happy again, I call on, I see what Edo State is doing in the rural areas is a lot, because that's where the bulk is, that's where the bulk is. And that is where we can create a lot of employment, create a lot of growth, so those are the thoughts that I just picked from this very interesting conversation.
Thank you so much, Obong. No doubt helping to summarize some of the key takeaways so far. All right, there's a question here from Kenneth Obeta. What are the major challenges cooperative societies in the rural? What are the major challenges, rather, of cooperative societies in the rural areas, especially in the agricultural sector? And I was wondering if maybe we'll go back to the commissioner for this. Maybe you had some thoughts, and then perhaps maybe Isaiah may want to chime in too.
Okay, so one of the things that the governor has promised is by the time he is done, there will be Wi-Fi in every rural area of Edo State. There's been fiber optics dropped across the state, and that is still going on because as far as the governor believes, if you're going to make any changes, you need to look inwards. And as you go into rural areas, like Mr. Obong just said, there's a lot of clusters going on. There's a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot of changes. We need to elevate them and we need to build them up. And we have to start with the rural areas. In fact, one of the very deliberate actions that have been taken at Edo State is to make sure that as we make changes and as we take steps into improving the economy, we do a press briefing. The next thing is, first of all, we asked ourselves, wait a minute, press briefing. Not everybody has a radio. Not everybody has a phone. So guess what? We take it to the rural areas, in form of the, special assistants and, forming also community groups that communicate to the locals and the rurals to help them understand what is going on.
Right.
A lot of the challenges we see, first of all, you have the political farmers. Who are they? These are the people that say we have farms, but it's not being, verified. We now have drones where we're going to be able to hone in on some of these farms. Of course, a lot of them are not educated. So how do you translate a lot of this information to them? Use their languages, right, to communicate to them. So it's a lot of conversations. They don't have power. We're dropping power in the state. It has started with Benin. There's some parts of Benin now that have 24/7 power, and that will continue. And this project will continue until, by God's grace, be able to light up the entire state. In fact, as a result of so much power in Benin, you have seen the nightlife, come back with prices of even properties going up through the roof just because of what is happening in terms of the infrastructure. So it's having to be able to help these people understand in the local community. So what my ministry has done is now send some of the members of this department to go into the rural areas, start educating them on what cooperatives are all about. There's a lot of market women and men who do everything today. They'll bring their wares to a certain part in Benin, and then from there, the trucks unload them and they start to sell. If you have these cooperatives already set up, you can send those trucks in so they don't have to bring these things out to Benin, get them from them, move them out. And with that, you start with technology. You have a database, okay, Uncle John has a farm in, Urume, and he does nothing but plantain. We have the size of his farm, and all we're doing is saying, okay, who are the buyers? And then we connect them. If we can't connect them, we find a way for them to be able to connect. So it's having to get that information across, right? And then for them, making sure they have the phones to be able to even receive those calls to be able to transact. Then educating them, reorientating the mindset of the people in the rural areas. And it all starts with us. It starts with creating that enabling environment, which is what we started.
All right, thank you so much for that. Isaiah, do you want to also speak to this issue about bringing the farmers. I personally am quite interested in how we can get farmers invested in cooperatives. And as you do so, I think there's another related question. Understanding that most farmers may not be tech savvy, how is introducing a cooperative scheme primarily run by the tech space an advantage to them? Is it truly an advantage? And Isaiah, maybe you want to speak to this as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start from some of the big challenges of cooperatives in rural area. As the Honorable Commissioner earlier pointed out, that there's low level of education, and this could mean a lot of things when it translates into the larger economy. For example, there's low levels of market intelligence among the cooperatives in rural area. What that means is that it can affect the decision-making system. It can also affect communication. So if you compare a Chevron cooperative society to a cooperative society in some of the local or most rural community in Nigeria, you see that Chevron cooperative society might even be working with Microsoft Teams, Slack, Zoom, WhatsApp, and all of these things potentially. Right. However, in rural areas, what happens if they can't even publish annual reports? What happens if they can't even have constant communication with each other? And we also need to think about economic opportunities. You know, when we conducted our surveys, some of the things that come out for lack of access to financial inclusion, beyond the fact that fiscal banks can be very far from people. Yeah, agency banking is plugging the gap. But it's also the fact that people are saying that they do not even have the economic opportunity. It's literally put this way: if I don't have money, what do you expect me to transact? So those are some of the valid challenge of cooperatives in rural area. And there are big opportunities for technology. If you look at it, the integration of technology to accelerate the impact of financial inclusion and inclusion of cooperative. What we have also learned from our data is the fact that when we measure literacy in Nigeria, for example, or across board, what we measure is the ability to read and write in English, and not necessarily the ability to read, write, and understand local language. So if you look at some northern region, northwest, northeast part of the country, for example, we realize that the literacy level based on the ability to read and write in English is about 10% or lesser for some of the states. However, the ability to read and write or understand Hausa is up to 60% for some of the states. That's a huge opportunity. We do not yet have USSD codes or APIs that operate, that can interact in local language yet. What that means is that if we have big opportunities for people to interact in their local language, it can increase their interest or uptake of financial services.
But sorry to cut in, would that be voice enabled or audio interaction? Because as you know, many of these people also cannot read or write. So I'm just wondering, what's the balance there?
Well, the ability to read and write, like we said, is based on English and English language.
My point is that even their local language, you won't be able to read or write.
No, 60% can.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's what the survey is showing. 60% can at least read or understand to some extent, not in absolute of 100%, but for transactional purpose, 60% can. And they even prefer to transact in businesses in their local language. What does this means? That it presents big opportunity in terms of alignment of the BOP, bottom of the pyramid, into the cooperative system. And I always say something, that financial literacy programs that are not connected to market opportunities are closer to a waste of time to an intervention. That's because if you go to an individual and tell them the big opportunities associated with the benefit of saving, and you do not, for example, if they are farmers, if you tell them this is how you can save, this is what you can do, well, it's great to tell them this. But just like the Honorable Commissioner pointed out, they are also going a step further to tell them that, well, there are bigger opportunities. We can actually connect you to market. We can connect you to potential off-takers. That's connecting financial literacy program to market opportunities. That's when you can accelerate the impact of financial literacy program. And then when you also think about the fact that integrating technology into cooperative system can also increase access to banking services, access to credit facilities, and also access to financial advice. Just like the SP said that, for example, people would normally travel 12, 18 hours to be able to get some services. Integrating also technology could mean that while they are sitting in their homes, back to what you pointed at, they can easily get voice prompts advising them on best practice in savings, or voice prompts advising them in what they need to consider when they want to take loans and everything like that. But we also do know that in trying to do all of this, we should not forget the bottom line principle of cooperative system. It is based on relationship and human interactions. And once we are trying to introduce technology, we should make sure that we are not removing the bottom line principle of cooperative system, which is the fact that it doesn't reduce the relationship-based intuition of the cooperative system, and it also continuously promotes human interaction within the cooperative system, because these people still want to continue to have those meetings that they will have from time to time, and they also want to also know the kind of people. They don't, just like we are on this call right now, I can see over 100 participants on the call, for example. These people want to know each person who are participants of the cooperative society or the cooperative system. So, and I believe that technology can promote human interaction. A lot of people do think that technology would reduce human interaction. We can, with the thinking and knowledge that we have in mind, based on data that is available to us, we can work with technology experts to consider all of this as we think of scaling up cooperatives in rural area. And as we make
Isaiah, I'm so sorry I have to interject, because we have quite a few questions and we are already overrunning. So I really want to get to them, but I think your point has been very well taken. Thank you so much, especially the last point you made about technology actually does not reduce, but it can actually promote further interaction. Thank you for that. I want to go to some other questions now, and maybe a couple for David. David, somebody wants to clarify, and if you can help me, David, because of time, make this very brief, because I want to get to the other questions. You mentioned the biggest problem to be identification and transaction integration. How are you and your company providing the solution that would include the people in the rural areas? And I guess specifically in terms of identifying them and integrating transactions. And a related question, I think, is how can the bottlenecks around KYC verification be solved using technology? If you can speak very briefly in about a minute or so, I'll be grateful.
Thank you. So like you mentioned, the major problem is identification access. To solve that problem is to leverage on existing technology and also leverage on existing infrastructure. And I'll quickly just explain. There's already existing infrastructure in the context of Nigeria, which is all the work that's been done by NIMC and the telco industry to do some level of identification for almost 80% of adults carrying mobile phones in Nigeria. So as against trying to start afresh, we leverage on that existing infrastructure through using secured APIs to validate using those other technologies that we have available to us now, which includes the things around AI, facial recognition, confirming location using GPS and those type of technology, using features already available on the mobile phones, which includes lighting, facial recognitions, and all those other facial patterns.
And those smartphones, because we're talking rural areas here.
Okay, yeah. So that solution is for smartphones. There are other ways you can validate, also using things like USSD to validate. The only challenge will be that the channels for validation will be longer. You provide the first name, last name, the date of birth. So a combination of information that makes it unique to you, or at least reduces the risk for it to be another person. So via USSD channels, using those basic phones, you can also do those validation. And this is already available for agency banking and some of all those things. These things are available. The only barriers are things around regulations, still insisting that you probably must submit a particular form or things like that. Save that, technology is available to help reduce those issues around location, access, and having to go on a long queue to capture. What we just need to do is validate using the existing infrastructure.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, David. Another question. This time I'll go to Charles, and I guess they are putting you on the spot here. Kenneth is asking, how are the investments of members of the cooperative societies protected from the greedy and corrupt excos that manage them? So I guess there's a lot of perception about excos, and you obviously being part of an ESCO, I would like you to speak to this. What level of protection can cooperatives have from the excesses of those who are in charge?
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for another opportunity to jump in here. Like you mentioned, you said those are perceptions, right? So, sometimes perceptions are people's realities, except when they experience something different, those perceptions can change. So, in essence, we have to be able to work to change those perceptions. So, what I would like to say is, as a member of the cooperative, one key message I always proffer to my members is involvement, right? Because you can form perception from lack of involvement in the processes of the cooperative. Wherever your money is, you have to ensure that you are actively involved. And when you're actively involved, you know that there are a lot of checks and balances, either in the bylaws, in the regulations by the Directorate of Cooperatives, and all of that. There are financial audits, there are expectations of financial reports that need to be submitted to the Lagos, for example, in our case, Lagos State Directorate of Cooperative, and also to the members at annual general meetings. So there are expectations of external audit. Aside from internal audits, there are also supervisory committees within the cooperative itself, who are also a group of members that provide checks and balances.
Structure, essentially.
Yeah. So there are governance structures right from
these are what we need others to build.
And these are the things that we need to actually ensure that those who we put in position of authority in our cooperatives actually do what they are expected to do. So as a member, if you don't hold people accountable, if you are not involved, you will not even know what's happening before you know what to do to hold people accountable. But if you are involved, you actually see exactly what's happening. And if you have perceptions which are existing before based on history or what you have heard, you know, those things change when you are directly involved and you see what's happening. Again, lastly, what I would like to say is, people who have perceptions most times tend to see things differently when they are put in position of service. So if you have perceptions about things that are happening there, take up the gauntlet, come up and serve. When you serve, you actually see exactly what's happening. So what you see from a prism before, you're actually going to see exactly what level of service, and especially selfless service, people are putting in there to deliver value for all of us. So
understood.
Follow the processes, use the processes, and ensure you hold your leaders accountable by using those processes. And I'm sure the rest will fall in place.
Thank you very much for that. And so you've heard it from the president of the Chevron Cooperative. Unfortunately, we don't have much time to continue to take questions. So what I'm going to appeal to our speakers to do is to please type in responses. I do know, for example, Mr. Chukwu, there is a question that has been sent to you directly. If you will be kind enough to just type in a response to that. And then also others can also attempt to speak to some of the other questions that are on the platform. So thank you so much for your contributions, and many thanks to the panelists for joining us for this. As we begin to round up, I'd like to now invite the Head of Marketing and Corporate Communications at Africa Prudential, Timi Ajanlekoko, to give us a short vote of thanks as we begin to round things up. Thank you so much. Timi, it's over to you.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. And wow, such an inspiring and not great knowledge sharing session here. First of all, I would like to thank the amiable keynote speaker, Honorable Commissioner Mrs. Brimo Afishetu, and respectable delegates on the panel. I also like to thank you all for being here. On behalf of Africa Prudential PLC, we express our sincere gratitude to all the esteemed delegates of the webinar for their presence and contribution to make this a great success. Like to thank also all the participants. There have been so many questions and so many questions that have brought about a lot of insights and knowledge into the cooperative industry. So we'd like to thank you all for your participation and taking the time out to be here. I must also thank the organizing team, the volunteers, Wale, yourself as well for hosting this and giving us bringing out the best out of each and every panelist on the session today. So thank you for that. And I'd just like to give a final thank you to the MD of Africa Prudential as well, Mr. Obong, for creating this opportunity here for us to be able to do more. There are a lot of participants coming in from all over the world at this point, from Africa. I know we have partners from the International Cooperative Alliance also here. So just thank each and everybody for your contributions today. And we hope to continue to do this on a regular basis. It's important to continue to share the knowledge and knowledge about the cooperative industry. As the MD said earlier, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry across the world. So if it's well enacted and well put in place, there's great opportunities for us here within Africa and Nigeria as a whole. So thank you all again for your time. Thank you all for being here. Do have a great day and an amazing weekend.
Thank you very much, Timmy. Very well said. Once again, echo the sentiments. We appreciate everyone for joining us. Before we leave, can I just trouble our speakers one last time to I think you all have your video cameras on. We just want to take a quick photograph just to capture the moment. So if our admin team would just organize that to spotlight everyone for a second there, and we'll take that photograph and we should be done. All right. Hoping I'm getting some. So I believe that is being organized now. We'll probably take it on 3. So 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us again. It has been indeed a wonderful session. From the feedback we're seeing from the chat group, that certainly has been the case. And we look forward to having you again at the next event. Thank you so much and have a great weekend and enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.